If you're waiting for this so-called housing bubble to burst, sit back, grab some popcorn, and get ready to wait. What's up everybody, Johnny Cresswell with eXp Realty here with another 5-Minute Friday where I break down a real estate question in about 5 minutes. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. No, not the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. I'm talking about the potential doom of our housing economy or the history repeating 2008 market crash. If you get any value out of this video, please like and subscribe and consider sharing with a friend to help them and this channel. I really appreciate it. Homeownership has become a major element of achieving the American dream. A recent report from the National Association of Realtors shows that over 86% of buyers agree that homeownership is still the American dream. Prior to the 1950s, less than half of the country owned their own home. However, after World War II, many of the returning veterans used the benefits afforded to them through the GI Bill to purchase a home. Since then, throughout the country, homeownership has increased to the current rate of about 65%. That strong desire for homeownership has kept home values appreciating ever since. This graph shows the only time home values dropped significantly was during the housing boom and bust of 2006 to 2008. And if you look at how the prices spiked prior to 2006, it looks a little bit like the current spike in prices over the past 2 years. And this may lead some people to be concerned that we're about to see another fall in home values very similar to what we saw in the last housing bubble burst. To help alleviate some of those worries, let's look at what happened last time versus what's going on in today's market. So what caused this crash 15 years ago? Back in 2006, foreclosures flooded the market. The two main reasons why these foreclosures flooded the market are: one, many purchasers were not truly qualified for the loans that they took on, and this led to more foreclosures. And secondly, a number of homeowners cashed in on equity of their houses. So when home prices tanked, they found themselves in an underwater situation where their value of their homes was worth far less than what they owed on their mortgage. Now these homeowners, they simply just walked away from their houses, leading to more foreclosures. And then this caused a decrease in neighboring home values. This cycle simply repeated over a few years. Here are two reasons why today's market is not the same thing as 2008's burst. Number one, today demand in homeownership is real. It's not artificially generated. Running up to 2006, banks were artificially creating demand by lowering lending standards and basically allowing anybody with a pulse to easily get a home loan or qualify to refinance their current home. Today, home purchasers and those seeking to refinance face much stricter standards in the lending world. Data from the Urban Institute shows the amount of risk banks were willing to take on then versus what they're willing to take on now. Looking at this information going back to 1999, we can see a huge difference leading up to that risk allowed during the last bubble burst. Now, there's always risk when a bank decides to lend money. However, 15 years ago, these banks and these institutions took on a lot more risk, both in person and on the mortgage products that they offered. And this led to mass defaults, foreclosures, and home prices dropping. Today, the demand for homeownership is real, and this comes from a reevaluation of the importance of home due to the worldwide pandemic we all just experienced. Additionally, lending standards today are much more strict. Purchasers today can afford the mortgage they're taking on, so there's little concern about possible defaults. And if you're worried about the number of people still in forbearance today, you should know that there's no risk of this causing an upheaval in the current housing market. There's no flood of forbearances coming. Number two, people are not using their homes as ATMs like they did in the early 2000s. Like I mentioned before, home prices were escalating so fast in the early 2000s that people thought it would never end. They were taking out equity against their home like an ATM and using it to fund things like new cars, boats, vacations, but there was a shock. When prices did start to fall, a lot of these homeowners were in that underwater situation. They just abandon their homes. And of course, that leads to more foreclosures. Well, homeowners didn't forget the lessons that they learned during the crash when home prices skyrocketed over the last few years. Black Knight reports that the tappable equity has more than doubled since 2006. Tappable equity is the amount of equity available for the homeowner to access before they hit that maximum 80% loan to value ratio, or LTV. The latest Homeowner Equity Insights report from CoreLogic reveals that the average homeowner gained $55,300 in equity over the last year alone. Odetta Cushy, Deputy Chief Economist over at First American, reports homeowners in Q4 2021 had an average of $307,000 in equity, a historic high. Adam Data Services reveals that over 40% of all mortgaged homes have at least 50% equity. So these homeowners today won't face the same underwater situation even if prices dip slightly that was realized 15 years ago during the last crash. And here's the bottom line. The major reason for the housing crash 15 years ago was a tsunami of foreclosures. With much stricter mortgage standards and a historic level of homeowner equity, the fear of massive foreclosures impacting today's market is just not realistic. Be sure to come back next Friday where I break down another real estate question in about 5 minutes. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.